Hi, I'm John Callahan, and welcome to the How to Market to Affluent Families video series. Now, I've heard a couple emails from people asking me, what am I using here? What is this tool? Well, this is a tool that's called bubble.us. It's bubbl.us. And it's basically a brainstorming tool. I use it extensively when I'm working with clients and we're collaborating on their market or trying to figure out the right strategy. We use this and share the screen. But I also use this whenever I've got to just brainstorm up a presentation, which is how this whole material came about. Now, how this tool works is I can just keep expanding things around an individual bubble and keep adding points and points and points. And just to show you what the full content looks like, this is how many points I had put together, all related to how to market to affluent families. So now you can understand why I didn't really want to waste all this content. I decided to give it out to you guys instead. So this one is I'm going to cover the first two bubbles here, some introductory comments, and then who they are. So first, you might have heard the story of Willie Sutton. It goes back from late 1920s through to 1950s that he was a notorious and famous bank robber. He kind of turned himself into a bit of a Robin Hood sort of character because he loved to rob banks and then give away some of the money. He robbed over 625 banks. He was arrested multiple times. He escaped from jail multiple times. And like I said, he really became a bit of a legend. And a reporter once asked him, why does he rob banks? And he replied with, well, that's where the money is. See, now, why do you want to market to affluent families? Because that's where the money is. Fundamentally, they've got the money. The money isn't the issue. The issue is having them understand the value of what you do. So we want to market to affluent families and at the same time have them understand what you do and do more than just do a direct cremation. Now, I'm sure that all of you have seen this scenario of somebody pulling in to your funeral home in that brand new Mercedes or a brand new Lexus that you know cost them somewhere over $70,000, and clearly they can afford to buy a funeral. And yet they walk in and they arrange a direct cremation. $1,000 to $2,000, maybe $3,000 in some markets at most, and that's it. That's all they're going to do. They might buy an urn from you, but they're probably going to haggle with you on that. And they might go to the country club afterwards and hold some sort of memorial ceremony. That's actually the best of the scenarios because at least they're doing something. But then you're set up competing against a country club because they look at you and your facility and your buildings and they compare it to what they can do at the country club and they decide to go to the country club. I had a story one time, a client told me about a very bad scattering situation where they happened to be on one of the coasts and part of their standard services were to go out after a cremation and do a scattering in the ocean with the family. And they had their process down. They knew exactly what they're doing. But one time, a local former politician, I think he had been a mayor at one point, had passed away. And the family decided that they were going to take care of everything themselves. They didn't want my client to do anything for them. They were going to handle the scattering, including the whole part of the service. So they did the scattering themselves. And the press happened to follow the boat out that was going to do the scattering where the family was. And the press was all there lined up to take the pictures, and they ended up taking a picture of the ashes being scattered and then blowing back into the face of the widow. And not only was it appalling for the family, but my client was looking at this going, these idiots, the people who were running the whole show didn't even know how to do the scattering right. So the end result is that the family had a horrible experience that wouldn't have happened if they had worked with him, because he obviously knows how to test the wind and know which way things are going to flow. So even with somebody who doesn't do something with you, they go off, they have a bad experience, and the next time they're not going to want to do anything at all. It's really a sad situation. The best thing for that affluent family is to do something with you. And that's what we're going to talk about in this series. Now let's talk about who these people are. I'm just going to move this diagram around here a little bit so that you can see things a little bit clearer. Who are the affluent? Now, you take the general category of affluent people, and there's subcategories within that. And this is all data that you can find all over the internet. I found this on marketwatch.com. And you might be surprised to learn that everything above middle class is now considered affluent. And you can take that affluent category and let's just go through it, and we're going to break it down, these affluent people. The first level is called the mass affluent. These are the ones right above middle class. The mass affluent have incomes in the $85,000 to $150,000 household income and or a net worth of $250,000. Now, a lot of you are probably sitting there going, dang, I didn't know I was affluent. Well, to a lot of people, or to the market and marketing people, you're the first level. The 85,000, that's not a heck of a lot of money for a household these days. But that is the first level above middle class. That's the first ones that they now are calling the mass affluent. Now, this happens to be the fastest growing segment of the overall affluent market. It is younger and more ethnically diverse than it ever has been in the past. It used to be that affluent people were basically Caucasian men in their late 50s, and that was about it. And that's not the case anymore. You've got a much younger crowd and very ethnically diverse. Now, these people are the type that they will shop at Nordstrom's or Saks Fifth Avenue, but they'll also shop at Walmart. They're not shy about getting a deal on something. And they like the luxuries, but they also like to get a deal on things. That's the mass affluent. Next category here to talk about is what they just refer to as the affluent, the level right above that. Now, those are people with household incomes in the $150,000 to $250,000 range and or a net worth of $1 million. These are what you would typically refer to as millionaires. Now, believe it or not, there are 5.1 million households in the United States that are classified as millionaires. Now, that's not as impressive as it used to be, because $1 million in 1959, you need $7.3 million today to have that same buying power. So it's not as impressive as it used to be, but it's not bad. That's still an awful lot of money. That's people that have got more than enough money to buy a funeral. They just choose not to. So that's the affluent. Sitting above them are people that are classified as ultra affluent. Now, the ultra affluent are incomes over $250,000 and or a net worth in the $3 to $10 million range. These are people who have really got some serious money. That's actually the wealthiest 10% of all households in the United States fall into this category. That's a lot of houses. 11 million households fall into this category. There are more ultra affluent than there are affluent. These people earn 36% of all income and control 70% of the net worth of this country. They hold 89% of all publicly traded stocks and mutual funds. These people have got, like I say, some serious, serious money. And again, they got more than enough to buy a funeral from you. Then above that is what they just call the ultra, ultra affluent. Now, these people, they just got a lot. Here you're talking about people that have either sold off a significant business, or they might be a sports person or a celebrity who has just made this huge amount of money. They've got incomes of $1 million and up, and they usually fall into the $20 to $50 million range. That's a lot of money. Now, one example of these is private jet owners. And if you just look at the private jet owners, they've done surveys of these people and said, what do you spend your money on? Well, the average private jet owner is a man, 70% of them are men, and the average age is 57. So they're not necessarily elderly. This is what those private jet owners spend their money on. Every year, they spend $30,000 on wine and alcoholic beverages. They spend $115,000 on clothes and accessories, $150,000 on hotels and resorts, $250,000 on jewelry, and $500,000 on home improvements. That's what private jet owners spend their money on. An awful lot of money sitting out there in the economy. So that is the ultra, ultra affluent. Now, there's special things that you need to take into consideration as it relates to affluent business owners and affluent boomers. So let's spend a minute on that. Affluent business owners, that's 20% of the people are self-employed in this country, but they account for 70% of all wealth. So obviously being self-employed is a good idea. The average net worth is 500% greater than an employee. So if you're a business owner and you've made it to a certain level, your average net worth is 500% greater than the people who work for you. 50% of the ultra affluent got their wealth from business. Now, the other 50%, they married it, they inherited it, they just got lucky. But 50% of those ultra affluent people got it through business. So there's an awful lot of people out there who have succeeded in business and are sitting on a nest egg of money. And a small comment here on boomers. We've talked a lot in this industry about the big wave of boomers. But at the same time, what we're finding is that boomers aren't necessarily buying traditional funerals. In most of the country, you couldn't give them a traditional funeral. They just won't buy it. And yet they have the money. Baby boomers are set to inherit $11.6 trillion from their parents. And it's all happening over the next 10 years. That's an awful lot of money. It works out to about $64,000 per boomer on average. But the thing is, a lot of boomers are getting nothing. Nothing. There's a lot of them who are going to get $200,000, $300,000, $400,000, sometimes way more than that. So there's an awful lot of money out there in the boomer market, and boomers love to spend money. We've just got to figure out how to get them to spend it on a funeral service. That's the issue here, and that's what we're going to talk about in this video series. So that's who they are. There's a lot of money in the marketplace. Between the mass affluent, the ultra affluent, ultra, business owners, and the boomers, there's more than enough money out there. The issue, again, is how do we get them to understand the value of a funeral service and to select you to work with on that service. So that's it for this video. The next one, we're going to get into the psychological profile of these people. What is it that makes them tick? Why do they buy things? And we're going to cover that one on the next video. So that's it for this one. Hope you've enjoyed it. I'll be back in a couple of days.